So Rutger Hauer makes his American film debut opposite Sylvester Stallone in a New York City cop thriller, wrought with production turmoil, and extensive readouts from the studio and MPAA, still turned out to be a very uniquely interesting film by the name of Nighthawks. New York cop Sergeants Deke Silva and Matthew Fox work decoy detail catching muggers in Manhattan, but are soon pulled away by Lieutenant Moafo to join a joint terrorism task force headed up by Interpol's Inspector Peter Hartman. International terrorist Amar Reinhardt, aka Wulfgar, has recently struck in London, but when law enforcement tracks down a contact to him, Wulfgar has to go on the run, especially as his passport photo is now in the hands of Interpol. Following cosmetic surgery to change his appearance, Wulfgar decides to target New York City. Meanwhile, De Silva tries to reconnect with his ex-wife Irene, as his dedication to being a cop strained the relationship, but is eager to try making it work again. However, he butts heads with Inspector Hartman, who tries to drive a more severe mentality into the NYPD, in dealing with a dangerous sociopath in Wulfgar. Yet Fox pulls deep back into the fray, and Hartman and De Silva come to an understanding. Soon a flight attendant Wulfgar charmed into staying with comes across a stash of explosives, and he is forced to kill her. However, a map circling the location of his first bombing in New York hooks in the task force, sending De Silva and Fox out to scour the local club scene. Knowing that Wulfgar has likely changed his appearance, De Silva deduces and locks eyes with the man himself, which explodes into gunfire and chases the subway, where Wulfgar takes a hostage. Unable to pull the trigger with an innocent in the way, De Silva and Fox are forced to pursue onto the train and into another subway station. Yet Fox is eventually ambushed and slashed by Wulfgar, allowing the terrorists to escape. Soon thereafter, Wulfgar's accomplice Shaka joins up with him to plot their next move against the United Nations and eliminate Inspector Hartman at a gala event. Wulfgar's game with De Silva then escalates as diplomatic hostages are taken on the Roosevelt Island tram. One is callously killed outright, as De Silva is psychologically tested, being drawn in time and again by Wulfgar. Yet their final game will ultimately end with tense and shocking results. So Nighthawks saw its US theatrical release on April 10th, 1981, opening opposite films such as John Borman's Excalibur and Joe Dante's The Howling, and garnering a pretty decent profit for itself, garnering $19.9 million at the box office off of a $5 million budget, so pretty decent success for Universal Pictures, but kind of the critical end of things wasn't quite as much. From reviews at the time I was looking at, they weren't terribly glowing. A lot of things felt like the story was a little bit lacking in substance, a little lacking in depth. The thing was a little bit thin in some places, and there are some things like Rutger Hauer's performance and various other things did get some praise in some places, but it wasn't a really strong critical success in that regard, but still seemed to please audiences in a certain regard. And at this point in time, Sylvester Stallone, after he'd done 2 Rocky films, he's still trying to find some other stuff that really kind of hit outside of that franchise. And so some things kind of didn't make money, some things made a little bit of money, but some things just kind of didn't quite land quite as strongly. But feels like this one kind of at least hit a little bit of a mark that could kind of build some other ideas off of moving forward in his career and kind of revisit some other cop thrillers, but nothing quite the same style as this. But the origin of the project was very interesting because supposedly it started as a third French Connection film. But when Gene Hackman decided not to reprise the role of Popeye Doyle for another film, he kind of got sold off from 20th Century Fox over to Universal Pictures, with writer David Shaber kind of going along in the process and kind of reworking the script. And they got some input from Paul Silbert, who had been working on this screenplay for another domestic terrorism thriller, more focused on someone who's like a Spanish terrorist, based on someone's in real life, like a real life terrorist. And they felt like we're dabbling a little close to the sun in this whole thing, kind of like, okay, we're gonna like kind of use this guy as the archetype for what we're doing the entire thing, kind of scare things. They're a little spooked off with the entire idea, kind of like doing something that close to it. So they reworked the entire idea and went off in different directions, entertained different ideas here. There was still kept a lot of things like the Roosevelt tram sequence was kind of a similar kind of set piece in his original screenplay and stuff like that. So they took kind of elements from both screenplays and ideas and whatnot for both writers. But David Shaber actually has a proper screenplay credit on the film, and that's pretty much the one that got off to Herb Nanas, the actual personal manager of Sylvester Stallone at the time. He very much championed the script, and they both very much liked the whole thing. But the interesting thing came up in the entire development of the film is the fact that the original director they had was named Gary Nelson. And it's a very interesting, odd choice for the whole thing, because he'd done a couple like TV movies here and there, but theatrical features, he did like Freaky Friday and The Black Hole for Disney, like one is a comedy classic and one's kind of a science fiction bomb for him. How this guy gets roped up with a domestic terrorism New York gritty cop film is beyond me. Like, why is this guy at the top of the list? He kind of got folded into the whole thing, and it was kind of the weird thing, the fact that the manager, Nanas, was actually kind of like trying to court the director the whole time, saying like, hey, Stallone's your star, he kind of get you on the phone to talk with him so you can kind of get acquainted and kind of get up and collaborate and talk about things, how he wanted to go about the entire production and everything like that, and he just apparently just wouldn't do it. He just would not develop a relationship with Stallone whatsoever, and apparently by the end of the first week, they just had a problem with the guy, just like he just would not cooperate with Stallone, and certainly Stallone at a lot of different points, even this early on in his career, definitely has a lot of sway. He's had 2 major big hit films, grossed hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's a worldwide known commodity, and so he does have a certain pull on the entire thing. Like, you want to have this guy very much in the mix of what you want to do with it, have a very good relationship working with the guy. So if the big star in the film says this guy is not being cooperative and he's not communicating with me, he's going to get disposed of. And unfortunately, the fact is, they didn't want to fall too far behind on the schedule and everything like that, so like Stallone actually directed one of the chase sequences in the film, but the fact of the matter is, at this point in time, the Directors Guild of America already had a rule. The fact is, you can't fire the director and have an actor who's already on the film step up and actually start directing the film. That's against the rules. Even if you are already a DGA member, you cannot do that. And so, very interesting thing, like, in a situation here, so the fact is, Herb Nanas socially knew Bruce Malmuth, who had done like one feature before this. Later on, does direct the Steven Seagal film Hard to Kill, which is kind of one of his lesser theatrical outings. Big hit, but still not the greatest thing he had in that entire run he had there in the late 80s, early 90s. But the fact is, Herb Nanas knew it. Like, I'm going to give you the biggest star in the world, Sylvester Stallone. I need you to get on a plane with the script, get over here to New York, and we need you to shoot the film. We need you to direct the film. We need a Helmer on this whole thing. So, certainly, a lot of things in terms of like Lindsay Wagner, who's on the film as Deke Silva's ex-wife. She says that Stallone very much kind of like ran the show to a certain degree. So, who knows if Malmuth was much more of a ghost director in that regard. But the fact of the matter is, he gets the credit for being the director of the film and gets the credit for everything that went on into the entire quality of what the film actually resulted in. And there's a lot of interesting things with the film, but there's a lot behind the scenes beyond that still kind of shook the quality of the film, because there's a lot of stuff involved between Stallone and Rutger Hauer that didn't go out terribly well. A lot of things in terms of the post-production on the film, where the editing went off in different directions, or it didn't quite go off to the way that the potential of the script they had actually resulted in. And so it's very much an interesting thing how to explore all that type of stuff as we go on through the rest of the entire film. And what you ultimately get with the direction of Nighthawks is very gritty, grimy New York City aesthetics. Like, it's still kind of harnessing the embers of the 1970s here, because it still took a couple of years for the 80s kind of assert what it was going to be. And so, first couple of years of the decade, you're still kind of bleeding over from the 70s. Those earthy aesthetics, the grimy, gritty elements of the entire films that are being made in that decade are very much prevalent in Nighthawks here. And you feel the weight of seriousness with the tone of the entire film and how serious they take the subject matter that they're dealing with here. They're not overblowing it. They're not trying to punch up the cartoonist levels. They're still having that kind of grounded 70s feeling towards what they're doing with the entire film. And it comes off very much with the cinematography from James A. Contner, who had previously shot William Friedkin's Cruising before this, and would go on to shoot films such as Jaws 3D, The Last Dragon, and 11 episodes of Miami Vice, including their Season 2 premiere, Prodigal Son, which is a very big episode for the series in that regard. So he lends quite a few nice episodes of the series before going off to do stuff like Monkey Shines, a few other things here and there, but kind of falling off from the cinematography end of things for feature films after that point in time. But does a very good job here. From his own words, he was still developing himself as a cinematographer at this point in time, but it was a really solid job to kind of create the feeling of the film overall and the kind of vibes, the energies you want to have, because there's some points in time between him and the direction of the entire film when they're like in the nightclub sequence, like all the strobes and everything like that, they really want to have a certain vibe going off the entire thing, where sometimes they would kind of have the lights kind of fall off to a certain degree, so sometimes there's darkness and it kind of rises back up and have a certain look to the entire thing. Not just have it all lit all the time, but kind of have that kind of swooping in and out of the darkness and stuff like that. And certainly when Deke Silva locks eyes and everything like that with Wulfgar, just like the lockdown kind of zoom in shots, just creating that synergy between the two different characters, building that tension, stuff like that. Moments like that make the film a thriller so much, and it kind of taps into what the psychological ends of things or whatnot, delving into how the gears are moving in the heads of the actors and the characters, stuff like that. Kind of highlights that type of stuff. So it's a very nice type of thing to have a director and a cinematographer that can work that type of way to kind of visually pull you into the story so much, even in this kind of grounded sensibility overall, but still maintain that certain element of the edge of tension and anything like that. So does a very good job lensing the film, creating an overall style for the entire thing that very much kind of compels the energy of the film to move forward and propel it so much in very interesting type of ways. And certainly the vibes of the entire film are so well aided by the score from Keith Emerson, because goddamn, this score kicks, man. I love the score. Like, it's got this jazzy prog rock type of thing, because it's from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the prog rock group from the 70s, and so he's injecting so much that vibe overall, that element that's kind of funky and stuff like that. It's like, I would dare any film today get half as jazzy and funky as this film gets with the way it's presenting its narrative and how it's going forward with the score. It's like, it's fabulous. It's got so much character, so much personality overall, because these days a lot of stuff can be kind of like wallpaper scores. They don't really attract attention to themselves, but like, I don't mind a score that attracts attention to itself when it's just freaking sizzling, it's saucy in that regard. And it's great type of things. Like, it gives you, again, a 70s New York flavor and whatnot. It's got a groove to it, stuff like that. It's like, it's a great type of thing. It's still available digitally. You can get this album no problem. It was released back in the day on vinyl and various other things, and you can find it up on any streaming services. Get it on iTunes, Spotify, anything you want to get on. It's easily available, and just like, it just goes, man. I just love how it just does some tension, get some action, get some things going on. It's like, it just rolls all the way through. It's like, it's such a great thing. Just like, it fits the vibes all over the entire thing. Just like, it's such a really good piece of work from Keith Emerson. Just like, it's a great, excellent piece of work that's like, it just snaps into place so very well. And it's interesting to note that his song, which is a cover called I Am a Man, and the Rolling Stones song Brown Sugar was kind of absent from a lot of the home video releases for a very long period of time. It was on the original Laserdisc release called Disco Vision, and it kind of vanished for a very long time because I guess the music rights hadn't been sorted out and the royalties hadn't been paid or something else like that. But eventually, by the time they got up to the entire Blu-ray from the Shout Factory in 2016, all the stuff got cleared up and the proper music rights are back in place, and none of the tracks have been replaced, all the original music in the film now. But for a long period of time, it was a little scarce to kind of come about the film as it was originally theatrically presented with that original soundtrack. And the assembled cast for Nighthawks is also very, very special in its own right, with Stallone helming the entire cast as Sergeant Deke Silva. And like, I enjoy so much that a lot of these characters Stallone plays have this underlying, understated heart with them. And it's definitely present with De Silva here, because his character, even though he's Army discharged from the Army, he had 52 confirmed kills and stuff like that, he draws a delineation between war and being a cop. And as a cop, he doesn't want to have to go off and kill people. He feels like there's another way around the entire situation. And it's the interesting impasse going into this story that he is very much a propulsive cop that believes in the badge, and believes in his oath, and believes in protecting people and stuff like that. So when Inspector Hartman comes in, he's giving this entire sort of seminar or whatnot, this entire way of kind of changing the way they perceive the entire thing, how to go about the procedure of hunting down an international terrorist. It flies in the face of everything he believes in. Like, he doesn't want to, like, acceptable casualties, and some people might get shot, or some people, innocent bystanders, they might get hurt or something like that. That's not acceptable to him. He feels like there's some other way around it, and Hartman's in this wrangling situation, and he's going to have to throw some pretty heavy haymakers at him in terms of, like, saying, well, this is why your life left you, because you can't drop the entire thing of being a beat cop and stuff like that. He's got to throw some pretty heavy stuff at him to kind of shake him loose and tell him, like, well, hey, if I know this stuff, Wulfgar is going to make it his absolute goal to know every little thing about every single person who's hunting him down, to be able to use it against them, to flip it around, to weaponize the things that you love and care about and use them against you. So I like the entire dynamic that this character, Deke DeSilva, kind of have to wrestle with his own sort of morals and his ethics and kind of figure a way of how to doggedly hunt down Wulfgar without breaking what he feels is his own principles, and still finding a way to go around the situation. It comes up time and time again in the film when they had the entire chase through the subway, and Wulfgar's got the hostage, and Fox, portrayed by Billy D. Williams, says, take the shot. It's like, no, it's not a clean shot. I can't get the clean shot. So it's like that little thing there's like, Fox is like, you should have taken the shot and stuff like that here and there. And it's like, kind of hangs on to Silva a little bit. It's like, oh, all this other stuff that Wulfgar does is kind of like hanging on the fact that he didn't take that shot at that point in time because he wasn't willing to risk an innocent life to stop the bad guy. So I like that quality of the character there. The case is a little bit of an internal struggle for him as the film goes along, and kind of keeps that that synergy between the cop and the bad guy and anything like that, between DeSilva and Wulfgar, and keeps that kind of energy flowing between these two characters that kind of intrinsically links them through the entire story here. So it goes on very, very well to kind of have that psychological element within the morals of the character so much, and Stallone portrays it so very well. He has those elements of heart and compassion and humanity within himself that gets a little bit chopped out because there was more of a subplot with him and his ex-wife, portrayed by Lindsay Wagner, who had just come off of The Bionic Woman, so she was very much a known star at the point in time, but she was moving back to New York. She was kind of looking at some other career opportunities, maybe going to music and stuff like that, but she kind of fell into the entire thing because, hey, Stallone's a big star, this could be a pretty big movie for yourself, but there's supposed to be a whole bunch of other scenes that they shot that got chopped out of the film about the entire situation between the two characters where they're trying to reconnect. And there's supposed to be like a scene in a restaurant or whatnot where DeSilva breaks down. Where it's like the entire thing there's just something emotional that goes down between the two of them that creates a much more of a vulnerable sensibility about the character of also like an entire subplot just got completely chopped out because the studio just in post-production felt like they wanted a leaner, tighter, shorter film and wanted to cut out all the things they felt were fat. And that's such a fascinating little thing to have. I think it would have created a lot more substance for DeSilva and built on that relationship he had starting off there, which seemed interesting. Thing like I wouldn't know what life would have been without you, so that's why so much he's kind of like hanging on to her now and being so much invested in trying to reconnect with her now because he didn't realize you don't know what you got until it's gone type of thing. And I would think that would have been a great story thread to move the entire story if it would have changed the complexion of the film a little bit, create a little bit more substance, but maybe kind of altered the pacing to a certain degree, would have taken the focus a little bit off the general sensibility of the terrorism and the Wulfgar type of stuff, but would create more layers for the character of Deke DeSilva overall that Stallone definitely would have been completely apt to create on screen. Lindsay Wagner very much praised the work that he did in those scenes that they shot, even though none of that stuff's ever kind of seen the light of day and stuff like that. So it's a very unfortunate type of thing that stuff kind of got thrown out, but still what Stallone had in the film as a final product still shines through as a very solid performance from him. And interesting enough, his friend Joe Spinell, who knew from way back when, helped him get financing and helped along with Rocky and various other things. He's in Rocky himself, and he's been in a lot of other films after that. And this was apparently the last film they worked on together. And Spinell's portraying Lieutenant Morafo, and I like the fact that his performance is really goddamn good. Like, he's portraying a lieutenant who's not buddy-buddy with Deke DeSilva or Fox or anything like that. It's kind of this thing that the rest of the force kind of feel like these two guys are real big hot shots. they're out there in the decoy department or whatnot. They're kind of like going after all the kind of muggers in the city and stuff like that, and kind of roping them in and stuff like that. They think they're just like hotshot cops or whatnot, and everyone's got a little bit of a resentment towards these guys because, like, oh, you think you're big shit or whatnot. Like, that doesn't mean crap around here. You go where you're told, and all the time. So it's very much in his face. It's very much friction and everything like that. So I like that element of the whole thing. And Spinell does an explosive job. The whole thing is very much convincing, completely on screen. So much he's so very, very good in the role. And apparently there was maybe a bit of a falling out between him and Stallone after this point in time. Not really documented in a certain way, but certainly Spinell hit harder times after this point in time and spiraled down and had some very bad things towards the end of his life, but he still put in some very good performances throughout his entire career, including the cult favorite of Maniac in that regard. But Billy D. Williams, coming off of Lando Calrissian in The Empire Strikes Back, Matthew Fox shows a little bit of a different range for him. In one, he gets to swear a lot, and really shows a lot of anger, a lot of rage, like kind of like very much a vitriol in some different cases here. So it's like I like that he gets to play a little bit more intense role in that regard, because before he was kind of this smooth, swaggering guy. Now you get to see a little bit of a different complexion to him. I like the quality he has, great chemistry, great rapport with Stallone. They fit in absolutely seamlessly, and Billy D. Williams did say he had a good time making the film. Very good type of thing in that regard, and there was opportunity for him to take the Deke to Silva role, but he kind of decided against the entire thing and went for the kind of supporting role in the whole thing, because he's not quite much of the big macho tough guy type of thing as he kind of admits to a certain degree, but he puts in a really good job as Fox. You wouldn't even tell, because he just puts in a really solid performance here, working off of the vibes and the chemistry with Stallone, and so getting into the action and very much being very intense and very dramatic and very good in the entire role there. But talking about Rutger Hauer, just like the fact is, they had seen him in a film called Soldier of Orange, which is a Dutch film before this. It's like, yeah, this guy would really work well because he can speak English, he has a very good screen presence, and he would definitely just show throughout the rest of his career he has a great handle on creating very distinct, memorable, and colorful characters in his career. And it was an interesting thing that it did come on the film, but a lot of things got kind of chopped out and rewritten to a certain degree, where some things were kind of done both kind of in the script format and also in the editing phase, where a lot of the stuff got a little bit kind of trimmed down in some places, because apparently there was like 2 test screenings done where there was more emphasis on the Silva character, and one that was much more focused on Wulfgar's character. And the one with Wulfgar kind of went up more, but they still kind of trimmed a little bit of his stuff back to a certain degree. So there's certain frictions going on, and there's certainly the thing where apparently the first scene he shot was his last scene in the film, where the entire thing is the stalking into the house and getting shot up by De Silva. And apparently there was a malfunction or whatnot with one of the squibs that burned him, and then one of the stunt ropes that kind of trigger him to kind of be pulled backwards from the gunshot got tugged way too hard, so he was very much unhappy, where he found out that apparently Stallone told the guy to do this. And it very much created very much a friction between the two characters. Like, Rutger would typically be a pretty professional guy on set. Not really kind of rub people the wrong way or anything like that. He would seem like he was always typically pretty much upfront and straightforward with people and stuff like that, but kind of playing games. Maybe some egos going along here and there, and maybe kind of like here, there, whatnot, in terms of like Stallone wanted getting certain qualities of the film over top of other things. Certainly not the last time that would happen in Stallone's career, but certain things kind of rubbed Rutger the wrong way. But later on, Stallone would kind of praise Rutger Hauer's performance in the film, and he kind of regrets some of the decisions that are made from the studio and the filmmakers and stuff like that, how the film went along in post-production, and kind of wishes they could go back and create a much more fuller cut of the entire film as it is today, whatnot. But who knows if any of that footage is still in any shape whatsoever to kind of be represented at this point in time. But Rutger Hauer does a great performance as Wulfgar. It's like he's got such a great understated performance here. There's not a one time where he gets over the top. He's always much very controlled in what he's doing. He's calculating. He's cunning. He's very much a cold personality who uses the subtlety of his performance to be menacing, to be threatening. Certainly, early on in the film, he's wearing a lot of prosthetics, because as the film goes along and his picture gets circulated over to Interpol, he has to do some plastic surgery to change his face. Well, apparently that was done by effects legend Dick Smith, who had done most famously the work on The Exorcist before this, but very good work on how he created a slightly different face for Rutger Hauer early on in the film, and then he transitioned into much more Rutger Hauer's proper face later on. It's very, very good work in that regard. It still holds up very nicely in HD, but Rutger does a fantastic performance where you can see Wulfgar's gears turning all the time, what he's thinking, and the deliberate sensibilities of how he goes about doing what he's doing. It just has always that underlying chilling sensibility overall. It's like he just knows how to dial it up here and there and stuff like that when he's just kind of working those scenes with Stallone, and just like, I want that bastard. I want this Silva. It's like he's playing these games with him because he's got him tethered on a line to a certain degree. So I'm gonna keep him close. I'm not gonna let him go off in the background. I'm gonna plot things out from the distance. I want you right up near me, so I can see exactly what you're doing, what you're planning. He's always trying to create a controlled scenario. That's very much the intellect of Wulfgar, so much playing out on screen, how he manipulates the situation to his own degrees, and it's wonderful type of stuff what Rutger does. It's just such a herald towards the quality of characters you portray throughout the next several years through the Blade Runner and the Hitcher and various other things over all of the place. You just create such magnificent performances with such nuanced, layered qualities, and it starts so much, very much with this character of Wulfgar so much, and working out with Persis Khambatta, who's fairly fresh off of Star Trek The Motion Picture with her gorgeous black locks back in place and whatnot, and she does a great job of Shaka, just cold character. What they say, she's merciless. She'll just kill with no provocation. It's like she does a really excellent job opposite Hauer to create a very interesting and deadly character in that regard. And of course, getting Nigel Davenport as Inspector Hartman does a great job. Like I said earlier, it just creates a very interesting character that's you can see this guy knows what he's talking about, but is trying to hammer it into someone like De Silva, who has a very much an aversion towards that mentality. But I like the fact that the two characters kind of come together in a certain way. At certain points, De Silva's I want to be involved in this thing. I can't say I pull the trigger when you think I need to pull the trigger and stuff like that, but Hartman's I think you're going to do the right thing at the right time. So I like the fact that there is that thing Fox is trying to tell De Silva, this guy does think you're one of the best, and you are one of the best. So he's trying to hammer into it. This is what you need to do. He's not trying to drive you away. He's just trying to make you understand the mentality that's necessary to capture a guy like Wulfgar. So I like how those elements go along with these different characters around De Silva, with Hartman, with Fox, and stuff like that, to kind of craft that idea around him and create that cooperative relationship overall. So really good type of things, and how they craft the entire cast together. It's they're all directed very, very well towards great ends, even though a lot of stuff did get cut out with the story. I do feel all the performances do come up in a very strong type of way. But of course, on the film like this, you definitely need to have some really thrilling, riveting sequences, and I love the whole thing where they find Wulfgar at the nightclub, they have the entire shootout, and they go through the subterranean layers and the subway and everything like that. Just all that stuff is so really well done. And of course, like I said, Stallone did some directing in that sequence. It definitely shows a very good hand in that regard in terms of just pitching it right on the edge of tension and suspense and everything like that, and just getting the momentum going forward and stuff like that, barreling forward so much with the entire train car and everything like that, and going up where Fox gets slashed across the cheek and everything like that. It's really gushing. So it's not just a flesh wound and whatnot. It's a really bad wound, and it's De Silva's not going to just leave his partner there to bleed out and stuff like that. It's just a really good sequence. It really hits it right on the money in that regard, and I just love how the film builds up and goes forward and has those sequences where you establish Wulfgar's threat, what he does. He will sacrifice, he'll kill people. Doesn't matter who they are. Like they said, the first bombing he does in the entire film, when his contacts get in touch with him and stuff like that, it's he killed women and children and stuff like that. It's it went a little too far. That's not exactly what we want and stuff like that. It's this guy's a true believer in whatever the cause is that he's going for, that he's killing and planting these bombs for and doing the terrorism for and stuff like that. And it makes it very dangerous. And just having that threat build up through Wulfgar, through Hartman, and kind of filtering down to Silva and seeing what the ramifications are of everything like that, and how you get up to the entire thing with the Roosevelt Island tram sequence, which is just iconic for the entire film, what they did with the helicopters and how they shoot the entire thing. Just like it had been a very daunting task doing the photography of the entire thing, they have to have cameras up there shooting the entire thing on the tram with the background and everything like that, and then the chopper up here and all the different things. And when you get the Silva going up on the winch and everything like that, it's like it's all got to be very complex, difficult type of things that kind of coordinate all this type of stuff going on as a production in that regard. It can't have been any bit easy. And someone said that there's some very dangerous sequences, like when he's up on that winch, all they gave him was a little bit of a knife, that if the thing went slack or something else like that, it was just like, oh, you could just cut off the safety cord after you plummet hundreds of feet down to the frickin' river if you happen to survive the entire thing. I don't know if they do this sequence quite the same way today. There'd probably be some green screens going on or some other much more elaborate safety measures involved. This feels like it was a bit on the dangerous end of actually shooting this entire sequence here, but Stallone did all his own stunts for the entire film. He kind of insisted on the whole thing, and he very much excelled in that regard. The fact of the matter is, the climax of this film is so iconic. It's so well known because it's ballsy. And it's so very good because it's set up from the beginning of the damn movie. The entire thing of the Silva and Fox doing the decoy type thing at the beginning of the film, and the Silva's in the entire garb of a woman, using that as a bait. And everything like that, he's got the wig and he's got the mask on and all the different things. And it comes back around. You don't realize it's going to pay off. You don't realize at the beginning of the film that it's going to pay off at the end of the movie where they're baiting Wulfgar. He thinks he's breaking in to kill De Silva's ex-wife because you realize he's found all that information that Hartman said, Wulfgar, if I can find this out, Wulfgar will find it out as well and use it against you. And they pay that off. And they pay off the decoy thing. And the whole entire thing where this brilliant sequence is like it's so masterfully put together. Every shot is so well calculated. How they put the entire thing together. I love even the red tinted glass in the entire house and whatnot. And you have Wulfgar creeping around and they get the reflection of his face and all the kind of distorted cookware. It's just like brilliant visuals and everything like that. It's like it's a stroke of genius. And it's just like it's a perfect building tension. The suspense growing on you and stuff like that as it goes along. And it creeps up and then boom, it's the Silva playing the decoy. And unfortunately, after this point, there was some more cuts done from the MPAA because Wulfgar was supposed to get shot 6 times. And you still see all the blood spatters, the gunshot wounds on him, but the gunshots were cut out of the film. And he was supposed to be killed off with a shot to the head, which is not in the final cut. And you kind of feel the editing's a little bit jumbled. It's a little choppy towards that ending. But it's still a great ending overall, just like getting that sort of like reveal. It's a great piece of work overall. And so it's like, even though, like I said, like there's studio meddling where they want to chop out a bunch of things, make the film leaner, and kind of some like substantive elements of the entire story here. And of course, the MPAA coming in and kind of butchering a little bit of the ending to a degree, takes a little bit of the punch out of it with some of the extra gunshots that should have been left in the film. It still maintains a very good film. There's so many good things involved with the film. It's like, one, it is a lean film. It's just straight to the point. It's raw. It's guttural. It's very much just an excellent piece of work in terms of Stallone's work in the entire film, how the story moves along. I mean, though, there's certain things, like, it doesn't really have much to really say about the entire domestic terrorism. And it's like, it's way ahead of its time. Like, 81, talking about domestic terrorism on U.S. soil is like, that's way ahead of the curve. Like, people wouldn't even know that until, like, what was it, 93 when the World Trade Center bombing happened. And then, of course, 9/11 and stuff like that. It's like, this is way, way ahead of when anyone would really kind of think this was anything that would be happening. So it's like, this is like way ahead of the curve. And it's very interesting that there's certain screenwriters who are dabbling in that kind of idea that it could happen. And having that kind of subject matter be dealt with in a film that maybe didn't have the most aptitude to probably deal with in the most substantive ramification type of ways and whatnot, to really kind of dig deep into the entire idea there, but kind of dealing with a psychological story in that regard of having a cop trying to deal with this new dynamic, this new dichotomy of dealing with this international terrorism idea overall, and have to kind of jettison the ideas of being what he holds dear as a cop and kind of veering it off in a different direction, have to deal with much more of an instant lethality in your decision making than what you're used to as a cop, whereas usually to diffuse a situation, protect the public, stuff like that, and not fire your weapon unless it's absolutely positively 100% necessary in that regard. Doing a Nighthawks now wouldn't be the same type of story, wouldn't be the same sort of vibe, wouldn't be the same sort of elements you deal with. It would be a completely different type of thing overall. So I think Nighthawks is still a film that gets a little bit overlooked in Stallone's filmography to a certain degree, because you get more focused on like the Rocky films, get Rambo up in a couple years after this, and get like Cobra and Cliffhanger and Judge Dredd and Copland and various other things here and there, Demolition Man. A lot of these bigger films that have much more splashy times in his career to kind of get more focus on him to certain degrees, even stuff more in retrospect in that regard. Nighthawks is a very good film, and it's very unique, again, for Stallone to take much more of a 70s cop thriller with those vibes and those aesthetics and all the different things. It's very different for him. He doesn't really revisit this exact type of thing again. It's much more different. It's much more 80s or much more 90s to a certain degree with like a Cobra or something else like that. Very different type of thing. So like Nighthawks is one that if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth checking out, because it's a very excellent piece of work to a degree, with some things that could have been much more fully fleshed out if they kind of didn't chop so much out of it. But very interesting film overall to kind of delve into and explore for yourself. But guys, let me know what you think about Nighthawks if you've seen it before, and if you enjoyed what I had to say about the entire film. Thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't. There's always a super thanks feature to contribute something monetarily to the channel through YouTube and through Patreon as well. So guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.